Within the walls of this rotting house, millions of memories are buried, just as old and withered as I am. The collection of old Polaroid photos displaying times when I wasn't so senile and broken. The wedding ring upon my finger to symbolize the everlasting bond of love and companionship that I'd made with Marilyn, my wife. My old, dusty wedding tuxedo, which has been hanging in my wardrobe for over 50 years now. And my son's old toys and books, his favorite objects in the world, far before he ever outgrew them. At first glance, they may not hold any significance to someone else. But to me, they're a piece of my life, my heart, and my soul. When you've spent 70 years of your life with one person, you tend to be devastated when they leave. You wake up every morning and you're half expecting them to be beside you, though deep down you know that they won't be. That's how I felt when Marilyn passed away. The lively, cheerful home that we'd once shared had deteriorated into loneliness, wilted like the roses I'd placed at her grave every day for the past 10 years. So here I am, a lonely old man, going a bit loopy from age. However, regardless of how many screws I've got missing, I can promise you that these past 5 years have not been some sort of elaborate hallucination, nor some intricate work of my imagination. These events have been clear as day to me, not like any dream I've ever had, and I trust that a lot of you will find as much amusement in this tale as I have. Or at least, I hope that you will. In the December of 2011, I woke up in the morning and a strange creature was staring back at me. Big yellow eyes, a mouthful of jagged teeth, which seemed to be stretched into a smile, a fat and wrinkled large cat body, whose skin hung off of it loosely, as if it had too much flesh for its bones. Immediately, we both froze in place, staring into each other's eyes in silence. Well, it was silence, until he decided to scream. From his grotesque, toothy mouth, he emitted a high-pitched screech, his head waving around like a bobblehead, and his mouth no longer smiling, which caused me to scream as well, resulting in an eruption of noise within my usually quiet home. Looking back at it now, it was perhaps a bit comical. After a while, we seemed to both realize that neither of us meant harm. When the two of us ended our screaming, I stopped screaming long before he did, we returned to staring at each other in quiet confusion, which ultimately resulted in him jumping off of me and bolting down the hallway. I followed, though I was much slower. By the time I reached the end of the hall, he was nowhere in sight. And so, having concluded that I'd just hallucinated, I got to my daily routine, getting the papers, watching the news, and making some breakfast. Turns out, Toothy really likes bacon. I found this out when he stole it right off my plate after emerging from underneath my dining room table and then running off somewhere in the house. He didn't reappear until I lay in bed that night. I climbed into bed and he silently followed, whereas I hadn't even realized that he had appeared behind me. He curled up on the edge of my bed, and the two of us fell asleep without a problem. By that time, my day had been so strange that the perpetual loneliness I'd been plagued with since my wife's death had subsided for a bit, instead replaced with utter confusion and slight amusement. I woke up and he was still there, like a faithful hound. Throughout the years, we have formed a slight bond, found peace with each other, if you will. He sleeps at the end of my bed at night, and he eats my bacon in the morning. If anything, he's a strange-looking cat that screams an awful lot and keeps me company when I need it. I no longer dwell on the memories of my wife, for my depression has been cured in the most surprising way, medicine in the form of a fat, fleshy monster cat, and in return I have learned quite a few things about him. 1. He doesn't like the snow, or the outdoors in general, which he decided after running out my front door. 2. He likes to sit in front of the fireplace, but he doesn't like to touch. He learned that fire is painful, but only after trying to touch it around 3 times. 3. He eats flowers. It doesn't matter what type of flower it is, he will eat it. 4. He likes to watch me shave my beard. He'll sit on the edge of the sink and stare at me, or his own reflection in the mirror. 5. He likes water, which I'm thankful for. I had to give him a bath after he ripped into a bag of flour. 6. He seems to understand the things I say to him, especially sarcasm. If I make a snarky remark, he'll attempt to mock me, mimicking my tone with chirps. He chirps to communicate, which surprised me because I assumed that he only screamed. 7. He is fascinated with my wedding ring and has tried to pull it off my finger on several occasions. I've let him have it once, and he did nothing but hold it in his clawed little hand and stare at it for a few moments before handing it back to me. 8. When I talk about my family, he seems to get sad, almost as if he knows that they've all left me. He will curl up on my lap and listen to my stories. One time, I took him to my wife's grave. Originally, I assumed that he wouldn't understand, or he would just eat the roses that I'd placed. However, he surprised me once again, looking up at me with his big yellow eyes and placing his hand on the tombstone. "I loved her, Toothy," I whispered, my eyes welling with tears, my remorse returning for the first time in quite a while. "I really did." In response, he chirped quietly a few times, giving me his toothy smile. I didn't understand him, but I imagined that he was telling me not to be sad. I carried him back to the car, and on the way home, I brought ice cream for the 2 of us. Turns out, he likes chocolate too. It's been 5 years since I first met Toothy, and he has become my dearest friend. We have shared countless laughs. Well, I was doing more laughing while he was happily chirping, and have formed a million more memories together. However, since then, my health has greatly deteriorated, yet he is still at my side. It's been increasingly harder to drag myself from bed in the mornings, though he seems to understand. We both do. He lies at the foot of my bed, never leaving my side, even though I know that he wants to get up and roam free. As much of a free spirit he is, he proves to be loyal to me even in the end. He's moved from his usual spot on the foot of my bed to the space next to my pillow, watching me as I write my final journal entry. "Be good, Toothy," I cough, offering him a weak smile. He chirps a few times in response, and I feel myself drifting to sleep.